G'day friends and fans, welcome to Dave Talk Stuff Ukraine War Update for the 2nd of April 2026. I'm your host, the author, David Applegate. And as we look around the map, I remind you that I am bringing you news from both sides of the conflict. Everything reported by both sides is disputed by the other side, and no one is independently verifying anything. The Institute of War comes close, but even they have a pro-Ukrainian stance. Nobody is perfect, however, so a lot of people will say disinformation and fake news. That's because they simply want to exercise how imperfect they are. But we do not dispute that Ukraine has shot down drones. What I will dispute is that how many they shot down, given the lack of progress, the fact that 80% of casualties come from drones, and that there are thousands of casualties every day. And the cope is Ukraine has always claimed to have shot down drones and that Russia has only attacked civilian targets. Well, if that's the case, how come you are not having the technical superiority of technology of the West and the technical superiority of 874,000 compared to Russia's 679,000 troops? So we really have to question both sides, because again, if Russia's doing so well, why are they creeping molasses and unable to completely defend against drones? And yes, there are times they have been caught off guard, but today's retaliation for Ukraine's drone strike, again, both sides are equally to blame. And that's why I do not get the love and anymore, because so many people are... I know there's war fatigue, and there's also the lack of curiosity, and of course the ever-increasing polarization of politics, where one only wants to hear what their side has to say and automatically believe everything their side has to say. And I have not banned anybody for saying anything pro or anti-Ukrainian, so don't blame me if your rude comments get deleted. I'm telling you, right? You just don't have to swear or accuse me of anything. If you don't believe Russia, just what's wrong with saying I just don't believe Russia? Why do you have to make it so a personal attack? You think I'm naive? That's your fault, not mine. Right? That's you. That's your opinion, not mine. Right? Why would I care if you think I'm naive? What am I going to do? Break down in tears and tell you I'm so sorry and I'm going to give you everything that you want? Tell you the news that you want to hear? I'm sorry, Mr. Zelensky's foot soldiers, but you do not get to tell me what the truth is, because Ukraine won't tell the truth. And you know this. Now, not only was Odessa on fire, but parts of Ukraine were on fire today, although they are only talking about Odessa. And in fact, they haven't even marked off Odessa has been attacked today. So, oh yes, how amazing. Yes, Ukraine is such a reliable. And if you do not believe me that Odessa was attacked today, stick around and I'll show you from a Ukrainian source that they were attacked today. So, yeah. Again, this is why I'm telling you to ignore the mainstream media, because they will not tell you the truth on purpose. I call them the misleader. They are increasingly not just fake news. They are no news, no real news of consequence. We do not get... we get more... you got more information during World War II than any other war. Vietnam, was a huge mistake. They put it on the news, and people of high gullibility, hypersensitivity, and let's just say they weren't getting the news they wanted. You know, they didn't realize how terrible World War II was, what what really happened, and the price of victory. Now, it is in dispute, but now you see this area here. Russia's advanced in this area, north and south, and these two little area, this little area here in the corner, which has been uh, well, unoccupied by either side, this little no man's land. Russian troops have defeated one of two Ukrainian units in the area, with the other one withdrawing to Bavaria after. So there's missing. There's action here and action here, driving out one Ukrainian brigade and destroying another. I would prefer it was more like units, but and it's not that many men on either side apparently. So it's a very minor conflict, which is major, and it's not the only, but the only other reported advancing is in the Seversk area. Although this large chunk, again, appears to be the frozen front, though there are battlefield reports. So again, it appears that this map has decided to take the day off. I don't know, but yeah, because really it seems like there's been advancing here. No, they just put in often they're not updating straight away. Again, I said a lot of these updates are 24 to 48 hours old. All the stuff that I talked about for the last couple of days is finally starting to appear on the maps, but they're trying this cope and seethe, right? Remember, all this land is gone, right? All for weeks. I've been reporting Russian advances. Look, in the last 24 hours, it's actually yesterday. So, Ukrainian. See? For a long time. And now they've retconned the map. There we go. And see? They have not. They've retconned the map. So, yeah. But, again, all the reports telling you, Russian forces have reported advancing north of Pavlovsk. I told you, they're in Hygiene. People don't believe me until the Ukrainian base has finally fallen. So, Ukraine has advanced. They're not reporting it, but they've finally updated the map that they've lost territory. Now in here, they're losing territory here, which they claim to have liberated, but as you can see, they're losing territory here again. They're not reporting that Russians advanced. And here, now, if Russia was, of course, many reasons why they would want to fill in all these gaps and create a position here against, it's weird, but they are working their way up again to create a border along this line here. As I said, they're looking more and more increasing as they stopping at borders and coming around. They're not going deeper inland and cutting off the troops here. They're going around. A rather systematic approach to war, which is rarely seen. You know, you've seen With World War II, it was big, bold advances deep into enemy territory, wiping out their logistics, supply, and command structures, causing their armies to collapse and retreat. The Russians aren't doing that here. They are systematically grinding and wearing out. Why? Because though you get more territory sooner with a more bold, direct approach of attacking and holding large cities and pushing the front lines back because of the collapse of logistics, the casualties are so high, pushing deep into enemy territory. And Russia doesn't want to take another 100 years to recover from war. Now, there's also been advances here, but not much. But again, they're not reported. It's a little bit here and there. All in all, not Russia really hasn't advanced that far. And there you go. There is Odessa updated on the map. Sort of. The marker's back. So, and look, the markers that were on Sevastopol have all... So, all the old markers are disappearing. New markers are appearing. So, map's been updated as we're looking at it now. I'm not going to wait. It takes... It's neither here nor there. Hold on a moment. Alright, I'm back. Okay, so Russia's ghostly guardian, the Prizak interceptor, has been updated. As you can see, it's got a nice new paint job. Nice little setup of the multi-directional camera. Don't know if that's the pressure gauge or just another sensor or just the way the cable crimp. Alright, so yeah, there you go. It's, as you see, they've got also the slingshot launcher's got an upgrade. Wait for the motor to reach maximum revs. You can hear it by the buzz. Maximum maneuverability, high cost. They are fast. Look at that. Look how fast they are. That's sped up. That's sped up. But in an intercept, yeah. Don't forget, most of these drones are flying as fast as, if not a little faster than a car. They're meant to be faster than a car. They're actually meant to be a lot faster. The drones, they are working on getting drones faster, particularly with what they call these new jet-powered drones, because most of your common interceptors are too slow. This is why the Russians are developing a new interceptor. This is a drone, not a seeking missile. But it is actually believed they are working also on there's the there's the earlier version, but they're working on a more versatile interceptor platform. At the moment, they are working obviously with helicopters, putting gun pods on them, new guided and new seeking rockets, but these are making, and these might be making an impact. And as you can see, they've distorted the photo showing the engine assembly. As you can see, there are many designs they have been testing and still testing, but the new launcher looks very sci-fi and very and yeah, they can vertically fly these drones through buildings. They are recording video, teaching AI. So yeah, these are becoming autonomous interceptor drones eventually. So first they have to learn to recognize targets. Again, that's probably why they had these cheap. Now they do look like they are made of cardboard or paper, but they are. That's what raw carbon fiber looks like. These are just cheap experimental drones they've been using to record data with. And this is Israel's apparently secret observation drones, Nightwing, Batwing, whatever you want to call it. It's don't know its official designation, but yeah, Israel has been sending drones to Ukraine. Russia has, then you might say Russia's copied Ukraine's drones, but you never know, right? Both sides are copying each other, and both sides are getting drones off China and other sources as well. And don't forget, a lot of things that have been accredited to Ukraine are not Ukrainian achievements. As you can see, the recognition, now this is for ground hugging, okay? When you have the drone just coming along the ground, or what you would say loitering munitions. So what it does is it will create a pattern of the land based on both visual and they're matching the visual to a scan, radar scan, so it can fly. So like it looks at the land and goes, that's just land, empty field. But it might go, there's a change over here, and it will go investigate. And when it gets close, if it sees, yeah, so they're teaching these drones to loiter, to look for targets, and to hit targets. Now these are meant to be these Israeli stealth drones. There, boom. You can see they have no problem at homing in on them whatsoever and destroying them. So these so-called stealth drones are not, but they're not invisible, and they're not invisible to radar. And of course the drones are, yes, they do have a camera system and some sort of radar system as well. Some sort of radar and sensoring system. Hold on. Alright, back. I paused the recording for the to cut out the ads. Okay, so here we go. We have a launch of a drone. Then we have another drone, and we're just watching an intercept in progress. And there, and just up, yeah, top-down attack. And again, they're showing that there are different designs. I don't think there's anything new. No, it's just going to cycle around. They are using drones. Yeah, boom. There we go. Intercept the drones on the ground. Yeah, they got different launchers. They're testing different launchers, different sizes, weights. They are trying to create a interceptor drone to not just be faster than the drone. It has to be faster, but able to take down the bigger drones. As you can see, the success they've had. Remember, this is the Russian forces showing that they not only can keep up with Western technology, but can overcome Western technology. This is why the Ukraine war has dragged on, and why Russia feels that the US are overconfident. But they have, of course, there's no doubt Russia and particularly China have panicked because they realize that America is fighting them with 90s technology, and Russia's only able to keep up and cannot overwhelm Ukraine, which means, Europe has, of course, Russia's predominantly able to defeat European technology, but the American Patriots, yeah, Patriot 1, not the Patriot 2, as shown in UAE, 19 missiles or 19 Kinzhals or from Iran, all shot down, or the Chinese variants, the YR, but cope and seethe by both sides, but, Russia can attack Odessa. And again, earlier, as you saw, I've only just added Odessa to the roster. But Ukraine, Russia hit 172 drones, hits 12 locations. Looks more than 12 to me. So again, I feel completely justified in telling you that both sides are trying to cope and seize. Now, apparently, Ukraine has lost more territory near Hulapol, but again, their maps don't show it here, but they show it here, showing that there's a huge disconnect between what they are telling the public and the world. And why the mainstream media isn't curious, it's because they're they're the insiders, right? They want to keep their access. Now, Zelensky apparently has appealed for a truce. Now, Russia asked them for a permanent ceasefire, and Zelensky said no. Now he turns around and says, "Oh, we want a truce for Easter," and it's too late. According to Mir Zavrova, it's just a delaying tactic. It's to replenish their losses, a publicity stunt, and they get a truce for a month or two. Then they go back to fighting and claim Russia broke the truce. We've been through this merry-go-round before, back in 2022, and Russia is not going to take Zelensky's words that he's not truly interested in the conflict. He has to do something. Let's start with the laws that discriminate against Russians, the ethnic cleansing of Russian-speaking people in Ukraine, and actually make concessions to Russia. And of course, I'd start with opening up the pipeline. And nothing Russia has asked for as concrete proof, they even said, hey, stop attacking our fields and we won't attack yours. And Zelensky said, okay, and then immediately attacked them as they were talking. So you can't, why? But so many people trust Zelensky, I don't know. I honestly think it's herd mentality. They don't want to be abused. They just don't want the conflict. Now, draft dodgers have taken to wearing civilian clothes, and as you've seen, liberals will pile on the abuse because there's no social consequence. And most people these days don't want the risk of fighting someone else because they'll just get into trouble, particularly on social media, where the liar is allowed to lie because free speech, but then they're allowed to abuse you for free speech, but you're not allowed to say anything to them because they're protected. Oh, poor Zelensky. So, now, Ukrainian press gangs are a controversial subject because almost every Ukrainian glazer says it's Russian disinformation, even though The Guardian has routinely run stories on Ukrainian press gangs in the past. They just stopped reporting on it in the last year, I think. Might actually just be I've missed stories, but most of the time you have, Ukraine wants to force 2 million draft dodgers out of shadows. What do they mean by shadows? Well, they're hiding outside of Europe. And it even says putting up posters to try and shame Ukrainian men, saying that defending Ukraine is a woman's job, showing women in... Well, once you start killing off your women, that's it. There's no coming back. This is genocide. Ukraine is now engaged in systematic genocide of its own population in order for Zelensky to stay in power. Because he'll just replace Ukrainians with whatever population he can lay his hands on. Now, Kremlin has asked Zelensky to pull the troops out of Donbass now, and he'll do what? 2 months. Okay. Giving them 2 months. Well, that's about right. April, May, June. Yep. So it falls in line with the US deadline. Nothing spectacular. Nothing that should arouse suspicion. It's just political. Now, according to Russia, they've taken the last village in Lugansk. And as you see on the map, the Russian maps are not that much different from Ukraine's, except in a few key areas. Now that shows you a little bit more. That's Donetsk. You can see, let's see at the pullout. Can you see the border there? It looks a little bigger here, doesn't it? But there's all of Donetsk. There's Lugansk there, that border. So there's Donetsk. So about 2/3 there. So it's a little bigger on the Ukrainian map. But most of the rest of the lines are pretty even. So about 1/3 of Donetsk, a little bit more on the Russian map. But there is that little section there that's not in dispute. It's just the scale. It's hard for me to tell, but the Russians are going to have taken, what, 4 months now to just take a handful of towns, about 12 to 13, and now they're facing that. How many left? Well, it's going to take them months. They have months, 4 months on Komensk. They can't waste years on the rest. They can't afford it. Not in the manpower, right? Not in the loss of resources. Both sides have to realize that another year of war will destroy, well, but maybe 2 years, maybe 1 year of war will destroy Ukraine. But I'm not saying that they can't pick up the pieces and bring in foreigners to revive Ukraine. But if Ukraine collapses and Europe is unable to fund them, Russia takes over anyway. The people will vote with their feet. Right now, the only thing keeping Ukraine in Europe is the money. Just like if Poland, if Germany and France kept trying to dominate Poland, Poland and the other countries wouldn't have stayed in the EU. They would have taken their grace period and said, "Oh, fuck you." No, and Poland, right? Poland for a long time was not welcomed in most countries because everybody saw the Poles as just people who reached in their pocket. Now, that's neither here nor there. Now, most people, are happy with the Poles, but these are the Polish people today aren't the same as the ones 20 years ago who joined the EU, right? They're not the ones. They're not a welfare state. They've cleaned up their act, but there's no idea how long Ukraine will be a welfare state. And of course, the liberals love to point out, "Oh, look at the success story of Poland." Yeah, but it's the only success story. You've tried to destroy Hungary. You control Romania ruthlessly. You try to control Estonia and the others. And increasingly, they're divided down the middle, and you control the media so to make it look like the EU is this all-powerful, all-welcomed, beneficial organisation, not the malevolent cancer that it really is on society. And more people are sick of the EU and NATO. Now, I'm not saying that most Europeans want NATO to end. They want the financial abuse to end. So, thank you all for watching. That's the state of the war, by the way. The state of the whole war is, how many lies can we tell, and if we can get, demoralize. But I think if Russia sticks to its word, there's nothing the West can do. It's like turning around and saying, "We liberated Kuwait." Well, not according to Russia and its friends. We occupy Kuwait, and we're imperialists. So Russia is not doing itself any favours siding with Iran, but they're not really siding with Iran. They just want to put strategic pressure on the West. And I think increasingly it's become clear to most people that this Russia, this attacks on Russia are all part of economic manipulation. And Russia's doing the same, China's doing the same, India's doing the same, that there are no good guys in war. So thank you for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe. Please support the channel. Support me. Sorry, the troops. They're just, I meant sides, not the troops. Okay? So don't come at me. Please. So instead, how about supporting me on Ko-Fi, Patreon, or buy my books, buy my merch, eh? Why don't you show some support instead of some high anxiety, thumbs down, and coming every day to scream at me because I won't report the news that you want me to report? Well, I don't report propaganda unless I think it's propaganda worthy of reporting on and saying, yeah, this is clearly propaganda. No, it sometimes takes days, weeks, or months for the lies to come out. And increasingly, both sides are losing the propaganda war. They are, more and more people are no longer supporting the war. So, see you in the next video. Bye for now. I do appreciate you. So, please, have fun. Don't take politics personal. Bye for now.